That's my dog Goonie, and that's Huckleberry. I'm Jesse, and I found this. Someone we knew was discarding this dresser, and I thought we could fix it up. It looked like it was solid wood, and I usually like to work with that. First thing, I gotta pull out my old drill that my Aunt Darla gave me a while back. Before I got around to fixing this dresser, we used it in my daughter's room for a while. She would stuff her clothes in there without folding them and just press down as hard as she could, so she bent this track right here. So the drawer would just fall out whenever she yanked on the drawer. So not only was this a very basic looking dresser, but the drawers could not support the weight of a human child. And I brought out my trusty old circular saw here to cut up some scrap wood. This lady in Santa Clara was giving away a wooden bunk bed, and I thought that was really good scrap wood. So this piece is going to help stabilize this dresser a bit. So now I'm going to try to cut off these little feet and give it a more box look. And this is why I like working with solid wood furniture, because even though this thing was ugly, I can manipulate it. And I used this piece of scrap wood as a guide here to cut a straight line on the top. And again, it's from that bunk bed. But then I cut the sides freehand because I had nothing to clamp onto. And it came out pretty straight though. I'm cutting these smaller pieces here to give structural support on the bottom. I would have given it like a piece of plywood, but I didn't have any. And I'm done with this tool for a while, so I'm putting it away. I hear that some of you need to start doing that. And I give this piece of wood a screw in each corner to give it maximum strength. I won't be needing this for now, so away it goes. And here comes the orbital sander. I've had issues with this model in the past, but this one is hanging tough. The sides of this dresser just need a scuff sanding, but I go completely overboard. I wanted to try a couple unique updates for this dresser, but before I can get to any of that, I have to clean up the whole thing, make sure the whole thing is solid. I wanted to try to update or combine some ideas I've done in the past, and I think maybe that's how the creative process goes. You just kind of build on top of other ideas. Kind of like how I never build my own dresser, I just kind of take one. Look, you can see right here how I round the corners. But yeah, sometimes with my creative process, it's something I thought of or saw, and then I'll just start researching it and see how other people do it, or I just guess on how to do it and it comes out okay. Sometimes I get lucky and sometimes things don't work out right. And I tried reusing these drawer pulls, but they did not come out right. Yeah, like I spent a lot of time sanding these and then I spray painted them and it looked awful, so I ended up not using them, so you don't even see them in this video. Now I'm going to try to change the shape of the edge of this drawer. I've done this before. It's like you go from a bevel to a bullnose. This wood is kind of soft, so it doesn't take that much work for my belt sander to take it down. And then I go over it again with my orbital sander. It's just that it's 4 drawers, so it actually gets dark while I'm still doing this. And again, this is one of the benefits of working with solid wood furniture. You can take something that looks pretty basic and ugly and make it look however you want. Right here I found that one of the screws on the drawer was loose and it was missing a screw, so I fixed that real quick. And that's slightly sturdier, so now I'll get back to sanding. So I like to sell my furniture, but it is pretty painful to think about my dollars per hour. I don't have a good place to sell stuff, so I don't get that much money for my furniture. But I really want to do it. I want to see what this thing will look like by the time I'm done. But at this point, from just sanding for a couple days, I've probably already exceeded my dollars per hour value. And I'm really just barely getting started on this dresser. But like, there's also pretty high value in the learning process. And then of course there are the friendships that you make along the way. Like I end up selling this to a really nice lady in Saratoga. They had one of those horseshoe driveways where you drive in one gate and then curve around and drive out another gate. And that driveway was actual cobblestone. It was pretty impressive. And she was a really nice lady. She was extremely happy with this piece, and I love that. But I let her talk me down in price because I had a couple things before this that didn't sell at all. So like I never know actually what is going to sell well, and so this person wanted it and I compromised a little bit on the price. I think more often than not I end up staining the tops of dressers. Like, this wood looks cheap, and the dark stain just makes it look a little bit better. And I always just apply it with a paintbrush and then wipe it down with a rag. See, that looks pretty good like that. And I'm going to wait to apply the clear coat because I still haven't decided which kind I want to use. I just used some blue tape here to keep the sides clean because I really underestimated how much blue tape I was going to need later on. I really like this paint right here. It was $9 for this gallon. I end up using this paint on several projects. It's like a dark bluish green. It looks really blue in the video, but it's pretty greenish. Normally I don't like to buy gallons of Oops paint because I don't use the whole thing unless it's like white. But I really like this color, so I haven't used the whole can yet, but I've used it many times. It's usually a pretty big risk to put a unique color on a piece of furniture like this. Like, people will tell me they really like the piece, but this color doesn't go with anything in their house. And that's understandable, I guess, if they're color experts. But this color kind of makes a really good base for what I'm going to do with the drawers. And I really like the way it looks with that dark brown stain. I like all my brush strokes to go in the same direction, except right there. I go over it again later though. And I'll do a quick second coat here in case I missed anything. This dowel is from a closet in my house. I didn't want to use it anymore. I wanted to turn it into some legs. I don't really know how to make good legs out of dowels, but I had seen a picture, so I thought I would just give it a shot. I'm cutting a notch out with the jigsaw, and then I'm cutting the length with the circular saw. I found this jigsaw in an abandoned house many years ago, and it works great still. I love this thing. I'm going to use this belt sander to round over the edges on these dowels. I got this belt sander for $5 last year, and it is solid. It's old and really loud, but it works fine, I guess. And I have a clamp holding the trigger down, but I recently found a button that does that. And that sanding isn't very smooth, so I go over it by hand afterward, and that takes a long time. But it gets them real smooth, and it rounds out all the flat edges. I didn't realize that they were going to turn this white. I guess that closet dowel was just really dirty, so it looked darker. And I'll stain these to match the top of the dresser. I've never made legs from dowels before, so I didn't know what dimensions to use. I think next time I try that, I'll use something a little thicker and make them a little longer. In my finished product, you can barely see these legs, and it was a lot of work to make them, so it's unfortunate. I got this saw pretty cheap on Amazon a few years ago, and the first day I opened the box, as soon as I turned around, my dog chewed up the handle. But the saw still works fine. I just wanted to use the chisel to start the cut so it's perfectly straight in this angle. I'm going to try to join two dowels together. It's pretty tricky, but I need these tools to be sharper. I need more experience with joinery. I was really lucky that this was the correct depth. I just held the pieces together and then drew lines on where I think the cut should be. I feel like there should be a better method to that. I don't know. I'll have to figure that out someday. One of these dowels was already stained. I meant to use it for a previous project, and then I didn't, and so I just had to stain the other one. But they're both from the hardwood dowel section at Home Depot, and they're different woods, which I didn't realize till after. This was really tricky, and I couldn't make any mistakes here. I'm using a paddle bit that's the size of the dowel to drill these holes at an angle, and I couldn't get the depth wrong or else it would go all the way through. And I guess it came out good enough. You can really see right here that they're completely different woods, but I think they still look fine. I mean, it's underneath. And I attach each leg with 2 screws each and the dowel, but the backside has a support piece in the way, so I can only do 1 screw, and then I put the second screw from underneath. I think I could have done this whole thing if I just flipped it upside down. Originally, I tried to stand the legs up on their own with the dowels holding them up together, and then just setting the dresser on top of that, and that was completely impossible. It was crazy. I don't know why I tried that. This is the top drawer, number 1. I'm going to keep track with these little numbers. A while back, I painted over some blemishes on an old dresser with some triangles, and I thought I should try that again, but with a lot more triangles. So for this process, I measured it out and drew little lines everywhere and then taped them up. I paint on these little triangles. I just dab in the paint, but then I go over it again with the brush strokes to match the wood grain. And here's drawer number 2. We just have a lot of oops paints that we picked up from Home Depot. They're like 50 cents or $2. And we have some leftover paint from painting the inside of our house. Like my wife used this avocado green for the kitchen last year, and she's already changed it again to another shade of green. But it works for this dresser because I need a lot of colors. I even use a little stain here. And here's drawer number 3. This process is pretty ridiculous. I don't know if I will do this again. I want to try it again, but you'll see how ridiculous it is. I don't mind doing the painting and the staining, but it's just a lot of tape. And I like the triangles better than chevrons and stripes. And here's drawer number 4. I saw some other dressers that had like painted circles and curves, and I'm like, how did they tape that? It's incredible. But yeah, triangles is good for me. And I try to make the top drawer slightly lighter than the next drawer down. So drawer number 4 is slightly darker than all the rest. And right here I was putting on the second coat, and I tried to do it by color and not by drawer, and that was really difficult. I did not do that again afterward. That completes the first round of painting. Now I gotta remove this tape. We'll see how crisp my lines came out. I really enjoy trying things I've never done before, so this design is an example of that. Like, the idea in my head is a lot better than what's showing up right now, but we just stick with it, and it'll probably look really good later on. I have to make sure that all this paint is dry so that I can put tape over the paint I just did, so I can get on these new triangles and hopefully have no gaps. And now we're back to the top drawer. I can only do 3 triangles at a time now, just because of the way the tape overlaps. I think the masking tape cost $6 or $7, so it wasn't actually the most expensive part about this dresser. I just don't like wasting tape. Accumulating all this paint and stain over time is actually what costs the most. Actually, the single most expensive part of this project was the clear coat that I used at the end. But I actually do end up using it on other projects later on. So it's kind of hard to nail down like an actual price that I spent on this particular dresser, because I use all these materials on other stuff later on. And I'm back at one again. I think you guys are starting to see my process here. Tape down some triangles, paint them up, do a second coat, remove the tape, tape down some more triangles. Right here I had to make a little touch-ups on that light teal one, and I just did that real quick and then took the tape off. And there's another spot in the same exact place with that stain one right there with the dark blue. You see that? I really like this color right here. It's like a neon reddish pink. It was one of those 50-cent oops paints that my wife thought I could use someday, and it worked right here. Carefully do this little touch-up. See, I'm careful to make all the brush strokes go in the same direction. I assume that makes it look better. The second coat really helps seal things up. I want these colors looking solid. And now I'm only halfway done with this first drawer. It's crazy, I'm only at the halfway point with this one drawer. But let's just keep going and see how this whole thing turns out. I have this dark blue and I have a dark bluish green. They look very similar on camera, but they are different. I don't know if I could tell the difference from just what I've painted here. I'm just pretty sure that one of these 3 here is that dark bluish green. Maybe I can tell the difference when it's all finished. Now I'm back at the top, and it looks like I can do 6 triangles in this pass. This is like the simplest form of a tessellation. I'm no math expert. Yep. You know, I think I'd have a pretty hard time trying to use this paint on any other furniture. Like, it only works when I use it in this pattern style. These colors just work well together. They contrast and complement each other. And I think I like that boho style with modern style, or sometimes live edge, rustic with modern. I like mixing styles together, but I definitely like all these colors together. Yeah, I actually think this might be my favorite piece. I mean, I really like the greenhouse. That's probably my favorite project at this point. But this dresser is probably my favorite. It was pretty challenging, and it combined a few ideas that I've been wanting to try. It's pretty important to me to try things that I've never done before. I actually look forward to that when I do furniture pieces. Yeah, I think giving a second coat on these things is really critical. It was probably the most annoying thing about this project because I want to just move things along. But yeah, you could see the wood grain pretty easily through one coat. Some people use primer. I don't, because it is a lot more expensive than the oops paints. So that's why I sand stuff down all the way so the paint adheres to it really well. But then also I have to use 2 coats so that you don't see the wood grain. And this whole time I've been using the term oops paint. If you're wondering what that is, it's this thing at Home Depot when they make a mistake with paint, or somebody returns paint that they didn't like a custom color, then they'll put it for sale really cheap on a special rack that just has a cardboard sign that says oops paint. It's pretty common in most Home Depots, but it's weird that it's a cardboard sign. And the store near my house will put some new people in the paint department. They'll make a bunch of errors, and there'll be a ton of oops paints there, and then they'll move someone with more experience into that department, and there won't be anything for a little while. And then they'll have to move people again because there's not that many good people in the whole store. It's pretty weird to see this store do it over and over again. They just move people around, and some people do really well with paints and they don't make errors, so I can't buy cheap paints for a while. And I just wait till they put in some newbies again. And eventually they always go back to having new people run that department. It's horrible customer service, but then, you know, you get some really good paints sometimes. On my last round of painting here, I didn't make any kind of pattern with the colors, except I just didn't want any same colors touching on the broadsides. Some triangles are just wood grain, and my friend called that negative space, but I think it's pretty positive looking. With the exception of the staining, I did this whole thing with one paintbrush, and it's a paintbrush I got from the dollar store. Like, I really don't like wasting materials. I'm thinking of trying this thing again on another dresser, but I don't like doing the exact same thing twice, so we'll see what I end up doing. And right here I'm applying water-based satin polyurethane. It gives a crystal clear layer of protectant over the paint. And that pretty much wraps up this project. Prior to this piece, I had 2 large things that I couldn't sell. No one bought, so I was a little scared that no one would buy this one. So I didn't put the price that high, and then the first person that wrote to me tried to talk me down a little bit on the price, and I compromised a little bit. So we'll see, maybe I'll give myself another chance in the future. And these are just some cheap drawer pulls I got that are just solid black. But yeah, this is it. Let me know what you think in the comments, if this is something you think would be high value. Yeah, I think this is probably my favorite piece. The colors are crazy, the legs are cool, it was very challenging. I enjoyed doing it. Well, this was a pretty big project, and thanks for watching my video.